What's up, Final fans? It's the Warrior of Hype. I just wanted to talk about the title Rebirth because recently Square has just announced this follow-up to Final Fantasy VII Remake titled Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They also gave us the information that we desperately craved, which was how many parts will this project be? It will officially be a trilogy. So what I want to talk about here is my own personal thoughts on this title, Rebirth, as well as maybe dive into what the third part could be titled, yeah, maybe even throw in an extra title or two in the Final Fantasy VII saga. But first, let's talk about, I want to talk about the title Rebirth. So Rebirth for me is a good thing that they didn't call it Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. So the reason being is it feels like it's no longer misleading. It's no longer a lie in a way. And by that I mean that the name Remake implied to a lot of people out there that this was going to be a remake of the original game. Now, I totally understand the double entendre here. Trust me, the word remake means two different things. I totally get it, you know? It took me a long time personally to get there. Look, I'm speaking directly to you guys right now. You know me as the Warrior of Hype. You know that I'm excited for Rebirth. You know that I love Remake, right? At this point in time now, right? Let me fill you guys in. 2 years ago, in 2020, when I beat Remake for the first time, it hurt. I was actually angry, and it did not make me happy. So so here, this video is for those that may have clicked into this video wanting to come into the comment section and be like, yo, no way, man, I'm not excited for this at all, right? So this one's for you as well, because I've been there. So in 2020, I went through all the stages of grief. I went through all of them. So like basically saying that I was in denial playing Remake, and like say a whisper come flying through and I'd just be like, whoa, wait, what was that? But it doesn't matter because holy crap, Aerith's Church looks amazing. You know what I mean? That's basically how it went down. I'd be like, wait, that seems wrong, but this is amazing, and I'm back to that nostalgic feeling. I love it. And then by the time you get to the end of the chapter, like 17 or something like that, I was seeing red at that time. Trust me, I was not happy. So it took me, I went from that to anger, and then into depression, and I mean like, no joke, I was depressed for several months after that. So, and then basically I've worked my way to acceptance, which is the point that I started Final Fan TV actually, because I wanted to hear from other people who loved Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I think that's what helped me, right? So I wanted to love Final Fantasy VII Remake because Final Fantasy VII is a part of me. It is a big part of me. So that's why I sought out others who enjoyed the game. So I'm like, I wanted to ask them like, why? You know, tell me why you enjoyed it. The story, as far as it's the story. Trust me, I loved everything about Remake. The story was what I needed to get a little more help on, and so anyway, long story short, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the title Remake just felt like a, I use these words, they're pretty harsh, but it felt like a betrayal to some people, to some fans, that were like, this is not what we begged for, to have years, like since 2005, since the tech demo, and it wasn't what was promised. The promise has been made. It wasn't that promise that we wanted. So all that being said, I've come to terms with it. Like, I've gotten to the acceptance stage, like I said, to the point where now I'm like, I'm excited. for what's to come. I have an understanding of what this is. This is not a remake. This is not the story that we know and love from the original anymore. And I think the title Rebirth really like drives that home. And I'm happy that it's not called Remake Part 2. Because in that sense, it would literally still be doing that misleading effect where people would be like, oh, this is going to end at the sleeping forest, or this is going to end where the weapons awake. And I really truly believe, I mean, I still see it going around on socials, and that's, if that's what you think, awesome, please chime in on the comments. I want to read them. I love seeing what other people think. But personally, I believe that you can't predict it. I don't think things are going to go the way that you think that they're going to go. Luke Skywalker, I guess. This is not going to go the way that you think. So I think now with the title Rebirth, it's another double entendre, by the way, because now it's the rebirth of Final Fantasy VII, right? Now we've already had somebody going back to titling it Remake, but the theories of going back to remake the timeline and all that stuff. And now Rebirth is like, hey, it's the rebirth of this Final Fantasy VII brand. It's back. But there's the double entendre is probably Sephiroth, since One Winged Angel Rebirth was on the OST. It could also be Genesis, which is something that I've seen going around, which makes sense to me because the last time we saw him was at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, saying that he was coming back, right? He had much work to do. So it's either way, the name Rebirth is obviously going to have a lot of meaning. But I kind of wanted to get this out there to you guys to say, like, especially if you're new to the channel, you might not know this. We had a podcast about it a long time ago of unfiltered thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I just kind of wanted to fill you guys in. But I'm at the point now where I'm super excited for this game. I'm excited to see where the journey goes from now on. And I'm excited because they're not calling it a remake, and they're being way more forthcoming now. In a thing that happened immediately following the trailer was, we'll get to that in a second, was this letter from Nomura himself, the creative director, you guys know. But this part right here sticks out the most, where it says, Cloud and his friends embark on a new journey in this game, and I believe that the scenes that they witness after leaving Midgar will leave players with a fresh new experience. So I think they're being, I see that they're being more transparent about this, which is beautiful for this, especially for this team, for Nomura himself. And then even Katase coming out and literally telling us that this is going to be 3 parts. They did not have to do that. They did not have to do that. Trust, like, that it was so out of character for them, right? Like, for Katase and Nomura, like, that just felt out of character to tell us that it's going to be 3 parts, to fill us in on all of that stuff. It just, and then Nomura to follow up and saying, like, hey, don't, basically don't expect this to go the way that it has, like the way that they've been telling us, like, oh yeah, we're retaining a lot of the original in here, expect it to go the way that the original has. No, he's literally telling us that this is going to be a fresh new experience, a new journey. Cloud and the company is going to be on a new journey, and the title Rebirth really drives that home. So that's the reason why I wanted to make this video, to let you guys know about, I don't know, my own personal thoughts. I thought maybe that's why you tune into Final Fantasy TV. You want to get my own personal thoughts on it. So if you've come here to this video to kind of go into the comments and be like, no way, I'm excited for this and all this other stuff, my question for you is, does this now have you more on board with it? Like, so let's say, for instance, that you did not like Final Fantasy VII Remake. So let's say that you just didn't like what they did with it, the direction they took it, but now knowing that this is, knowing what you're going to get, now that they're being transparent, knowing that this is going to be a new journey, does it have you interested in returning? Like, I know I've talked to a bunch of you guys before where it was like, I'm not even picking up part 2. But are you now? That's the question I have for you. Like, are you excited for part 2 or for Rebirth now knowing what you know? So that's that. And if you loved Final Fantasy VII Remake and you saw this trailer, let me know that you love it. I don't know. I just love hearing from you guys. I love reading all of the comments. Unfortunately, I do apologize. I just don't have the time to reply to every single one of them. Yeah, I read through every single one of them. Trust me, and I love them. So thank you so much for doing that. So now let's get to some fun part here. Let's get to a fun part where I'm going to briefly talk about my prediction for the final part. You know, since we're on the topic of titles, let's talk about the title of part 3 already. And here's what I got for you, okay? So I think you even saw a little bit. I have been pushing for Requiem since September of 2015. In fact, let me show you that right now. Here it is. From September of 2021. Sorry, September 15th, 2021. This was last year. I put Requiem in the title. 7 possible titles for Remake Part 2. There it is, right there, Requiem. And also, I even had Rebirth in there, if you know what I'm saying. So, there you go. But we'll go back to my possible predictions and stuff like that. So, here's what I'm going to do, because part 3, since I did that earlier and I predicted Rebirth in that video, and now I get to come back here and cite that video every chance I get and say, look, I called it. I want to be that guy, you know what I mean? I want to be that kind of person. So just say like I called it, right? So here we go. I hereby predict that that any of the following titles, any of these will be for part 3. Here we go. Ready? Requiem, Recourse, Redefine, Regular, Revision, Reekdom, Rematch, Reprise, Reproduce, Resend, Respec, Revise. So if any of those titles get chosen for part 3, I win and you lose. Okay. Anyways, let's get serious right now. All right, Final Fantasy VII Requiem. All right. I've been pushing for this one for quite some time. I love the name Requiem, and here's why. It means an act or token of remembrance. Again, the double entendre here, because that is essentially what the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy is, and we all know how important memories are to Nomura. It is really the perfect title here, but maybe even a better title for a different game that I'm going to talk about in just a second. Because I have one more title that I really have, I don't know, I've grown pretty attached to it as of late. And this is the one that I feel most confident in. Besides, I love Requiem, but trust me, once you hear the subtitle for the other game, you're going to love it there. But yeah, here's what I got. Oh no, I just spoiled it. Well, let's just talk about it. Oh my god. Dirge of Cerberus, Requiem, right there. There we go. And here's why Dirge of Cerberus, Requiem, all right? Now listen to this, okay? The Merriam-Webster's Dictionary defines Requiem as a mass for the dead, a solemn chant such as a dirge for the repose of the dead. Dirge of Cerberus, Requiem, Final Fantasy VII. Now this would go in line with Crisis Core Reunion, getting its little fancy subtitle there in the same font as Remake, so you know it's connected, which means Dirge of Cerberus is probably going to get its little remake, and then in the same font, Requiem. And I mean, I can't wait for this one, because you know that they're going to revise that combat, and it's going to be a super fun third-person shooter, and I can't freaking wait if they do that. But Requiem is the perfect title, don't you agree? Now, since I spoiled that, let's get back to the other one. I want to talk about Final Fantasy VII Resolve. Final Fantasy VII Resolve. The title that I keep thinking about. This is it. Alright, it would be the resolution of all the compilation stories, Genova and Meteor from Original, the Geostigma from Advent Children, Genesis from Crisis Core, Deep Ground from Dirge of Cerberus, possibly Circoniade from Before Crisis, and who knows, most likely, Minerva, and of course, the one-winged angel, Sephiroth. Everything introduced in the compilation all ends with this final title in the trilogy. Resolve is defined as a fixity of purpose, a determination to act. When it's used as a verb, it means to settle or find a solution, to decide firmly on a course of action. Remember, Cloud will only have 7 seconds to do that. And even to break up the word resolve into resolve, well, I suppose as the final game in this trilogy, that is basically what's going to happen. It's a redo because the original solution wasn't satisfactory to the people, to the characters in the game. It wasn't satisfactory. For me, Final Fantasy VII has satisfied me to completion for 25 years. Okay? But, as I was saying, resolve. Resolve the problem. There you go. That's what I'm thinking for possible titles for Final Fantasy VII. The saga of Final Fantasy VII. This is it, man. This is the end of the saga. Everything, not just the trilogy. We're not containing it to just Remake trilogy. This is the whole compilation. Anyways, what do you guys think of that? I hope you enjoyed this video. Me, giving you my own personal thoughts on that title, as well as bringing some of that hype, I hope. So there you go, Warrior of Hype. Signing off, I guess. Is that going to be my sign off? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to pause for a little bit so you can check out some of these videos that are on the screen, and maybe hit that subscribe button. There you go. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.